Good morning, Ninth Star. Today, the date that I'm recording this is November 12th, and I'm looking at a beautiful snowy scene out my sliding glass door with Creston the Stone rising up through the clouds. The clouds are absolutely swathing it. Swathing it? I don't know. Maybe I just made that word up. Enfolding it with beautiful splendor. The sun is shining. It's just a gorgeous day. And so today I wanted to read an article that I wrote in 1975. And it's one of those articles, it's basically a transmission is what it is. And in those days, I was really hard to understand. You think I'm hard to understand now. It just came all flowing through and all these high terms. And, I didn't bother to try to smooth it out for people to understand a little bit better, which I do really try to do now. So as I read it, I always like to discuss the material I'm reading, of course. I don't just read it, but I'm especially going to discuss it here because it's going to have to be unwrapped, so to speak, unplugged, perhaps I should say. The name of it is The Cyclic Function of Karmic Relativity. And I begin. This particular discussion deals with only one definite phase of human relationship with the universe, yet it was considered by the ancients of this planet to be of major consequence. This opinion is also deeply shared with intelligences from other worlds. It is because of their concern for us that these higher souls have sought to understand our karmic relativity and aid us in recognizing its functions so that we might be able to better control our future. It is known by scientists of the present that cycles of life do exist. The newest discovery, bear in mind this is 1975, discovery by our current academia that these cycles are regulated by stellar occurrences and age-old knowledge. But this new knowledge is but a surface light in the depths of the darkest ocean. And so we remain a black speck of karmic reaction, not knowing the justice of our torture, nor the power of our thoughts. The thoughts of man are the builders of the universe. And I'm going to pause, because at the time I wrote this, I had no conception of holographs being, that we were living in a holographic universe. This came to me through Thoth, probably, it's hard to say exactly, late 80s, early 90s, but more definitely by the year 2000, 2001, 2 in there. It was already being hinted at, but I didn't get the hint. And I think that it was at that period of time, that around the year 2000, that Thoth started talking to me about it really being more of a holographic universe when he was talking about the New Earth hologram. Or hologram. I always get those two words mixed up. I don't really know the difference between them. And then later, just not long after that, I started reading about it from other scientists. So anyway, here we have a hint of it. Okay, that's why I'm mentioning this, because it does say, I've lost my place now, of course. The newest discovery being, no, that's not it. The thoughts of man are the builders of the universe. That's the line. The thoughts of man are the builders of the universe. This is a deep subject involving the penetration of thought frequencies into the ether, the building of thought strengths by repetition of emission, and the final forming of matter through the compounding of thought signals into structural coordination. Yikes. Well, what this is really talking about is something beyond the hologram, because it's saying what, if we look at it from the perspective we have now of our living in a holographic universe, we're seeing here that it's telling you how that's created. A lot of people say, oh, well, the aliens are doing it. We're living in their artificial realm and this is terrible. No. Thoth has always said, ever since he started talking about the holographic universe, that we are not living in a holograph created by some alien beings. So let's go back to what this says again. I'm going to read it one more time. This is a deep subject involving the penetration of thought frequencies into the ether, the building of thought strengths by repetition of emission, and the final forming of matter through the compounding of thought signals into structural coordination. But thoughts not only create, they control. All the universe is a basic law, a simple angle of comprehension that is balanced through response. Therefore, thoughts respond to one another, and so do their productive energy capsules such as matter. Our world is relative to our perception, but it is also relative to the projection of our thoughts and actions into its structure. World tension creates imbalances in the earth. This in turn triggers response to release these stress lines in the form of geological and atmospheric realignment. But there is a further release that responds to the Earth's geologic imbalance. When tension rises in an abundant amount, the Earth pressures cannot be absorbed by the physical body of this planet alone, but must, turning page, folks, but must find their source of outlet in the thinking response. It is as if the body cannot eliminate the negative excess fast enough, and as a result, toxic poisoning infiltrates the whole of the system. This then causes mental imbalance, thus creating an expelling of the negative energies, but also creating a cycle of its own. The expelled excess becomes fodder for more imbalance and is reabsorbed into the earth, sent back into the system, and expelled once again. The only solution is found in the karmic cycle. In order to improve the breakdown of balance, the thought of cycle must be rechanneled back into a positive pattern. This can only be accomplished through rectifying the initial action. Souls incarnate out of choice to work off negative aspects of their past sojourns. They have brought into this life with them a type of personality, which is in the most part, created by their karma. They have gathered from many storehouses of thought and have built individual channels with which to act. They have therefore created boundaries for themselves, and when the boundaries form, cycles are evolved in which to keep active the thought elevation essential in the continuation of souls. Those of our other worlds, as well as our ancestors in the distant past, studied these cycles in an attempt to understand the weave of soul character. By tracing the thread, unraveling link by link, the loom of soul consciousness could be eventually found. What was the true nature of the soul at the beginning? It was the pure form of cosmic ore, that rock which humanity is so firmly in which humanity is so firmly rooted. If this understanding could be reached, then perhaps souls could reprogram their genetic sensors to allow more of the true soul nature to mingle with the karmic personality, and in this way lessen the strain of karmic relativity. That's a mouthful there. I mean, this is back in 1975, yet, here we are talking about reprogramming the genetic sensors, well, the DNA, Man is born new into himself. He is given the gift of innocence. No matter the dreadful lies perpetrated by him as an informer in the French Revolution, or the loose affections displayed by him to the women of ancient brothels, he has perhaps been a disenchanted poet who wished oblivion by diving into a tumultuous sea, finding instead a greater sea in which his soul could swim, or even a saddened old woman with shattered dreams lacing the shadows of her gloomy life. Yet when he or she is born anew, he or she is a naked piece of life, of response in its most cherishable state. He has not yet awakened to his motivations of a karmic nature that shall drive his incentive and program his brain. The distant guilts, prejudices, anger will haunt him all too soon, but now he is mindful of only the wisdom of God, the natural flow of knowledge that passes into his tiny brain. But as he develops in physical aptitude, his karmic centers are triggered by the thought patterns of others around him, and he begins the weary trials again. But there is a beautiful object within the grasp of karma, as well as the more acknowledged tragedy of it. Man can choose his means of utilization of his karmic channel. He may reach for the letting of blood to sustain him in his guilt for past sins, or he may take that knowledge learned, the sorrow, the regret, and extend it in thought and deed to a fellow traveler. In this way, the cycle of negative excess is broken. He has reaped from the hardships of life and handed another soul the knowledge of his errors. If the whole world were to begin this new positive cycle, soon wars and misery would be greatly reduced, and we would better understand the tragedy that befell us. If mankind harbored no resentment at the credulities of life, but rather saw them as his own doing, and therefore controllable by him, he would greatly lessen his karma just by that one understanding. I have been writing of the spiritual and mental activities of man in relation to his karma, but the karma of man affects the earth also, as I mentioned earlier in this treatise. The energy components in the atom of matter rotate at a psychic degree synchronization with the thinking soul body. The humans of this earth create the transformation of atomic motion into material consequence by changing their thought patterns in various sequences. For instance, erosion is a great distributor of collective thought. It is a natural and healthy activity of energy. Thought works a great deal through magnetism to distribute matter. It is because of this that humans feel drawn to nature. Our magnetic vibrations attune to the magnetic pressures asserted and maintained in erosion and the moving of the earth. Mountains are the greatest storehouses of human energy and magnetism, while mountains store large quantities of energy. Salt water recycles it. The seas of this planet course in synchronization with stellar pressures and link us to the pulsing of the universal tides. Atmosphere carries our energies like the incandescence of light. It illuminates our senses and stirs us to replenish the earth with positive energies. The soil is composed of recycled matter brought into magnetic action through reprocessing. Like fine wine, reprocessed matter is more potent. The magnetic level of lava, coal, peat moss, etc. is higher than of the lesser aged and unrecycled matter. Now let's pause a moment and take a look at this. Really what is being said here, and I think the picture is really good for that, isn't it? I just sort of felt guided to choose it, is that we and the earth are one. Okay, that's something that's a no-brainer to most of us, right? We and the earth are one. However, this is telling you how it works, because it's saying that we create the earth. First of all, it said we created our universe, the earth, the way we see it and perceive it as a now we're going to use the word hologram, but I wasn't using it then. But by our thoughts, and how these thoughts actually become compacted to form what we call physical matter, which is, just in a way an illusion, but it's more compact spirituality. Though there's always said that spirit, there's no such thing as spirit and then matter, although he will use those terms because we need it to understand these things, because that's where we are. But he has qualified it by saying there's really no such thing as matter in the sense of being different from spirit. Matter is another stage of spirit. It's not a separate thing. So it's just a denser state of spirit. So here he's saying how it gets dense. It gets dense by compacting it. And it's also saying that once we got it, okay, we've got this matter form that is part of our reality here, then our Earth, which is our envelope, our intimate envelope, we start utilizing that energy field. And as we do that, we cause erosion, we cause mountains to rise, we cause seas to form. And you know, as I say this, you're going, oh, well, no, I know exactly what causes erosion. You can go to a geologist and he'll tell you this, 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 this. But you see, all those patterns are contingent on the human consciousness, not only consciousness, beyond consciousness as well, the human experience. So we use those formats that the geologists will tell you about as tools, but that's not what is really motivating the planet to do the things it does. And when geology causes, you know, erosion to happen more rapidly in one area and another, oh, well, the wind did this. No, but the wind blew because we created forces that moved it in that direction. You see, it's all contingent, all contingent on our human evolution and choices and the energies of our karmic frequencies that are fighting it out, nuking it out with one another on this planet. So another cliff falls into the sea. But also, the beauty of it is the growth of life, the birth, the life, the flowers that bloom. All of this is part of our soul experience of merging and flowering despite the karmic irregularities. So let us continue. Make sure I turned it back on because I did. Certain people have affinities with certain places and types of places on this earth. This is often due to past incarnations in such areas, but there is a deeper reasoning behind that fact. People have several incarnations in certain areas because their karmic aptitude is more mobile and active there. This is due to the type of matter that individual souls has helped to create and distribute in the past and present. As an example, suppose a man were to be involved in several lifetimes with complicated karma, dealing with other souls, so much that these souls became involved with him to the point of suffocating his action. He would find his attraction to nature to be slim. He would probably prefer security of large cities where the structure of nature has been drastically altered by physical labor and not mental composition. He would be activating those desires in him to limit karmic action through natural consequence, just as his fellow souls had limited his action in several past lives. Another man might find his karmic pattern very even, not dramatic in nature. He might not progress too rapidly, but he does not take chances that might lead to heavier involved karma, even for the sake of working it out. So while he does not digress in large jumps, his progression is almost stagnant. This individual would more than likely be inspired by tranquil, even bays of fresh water. Salt water would be too potent for his psychic centers. It would make him nervous, irritable, and he would suffer possibly allergies from it. His body would fight all attempts at recycling his energy at such advanced pace. The land would need to be flat and even, the temperature very cool and even, as hotter weather would expand the psychic centers of the body and stimulate secretion from the pineal gland within the skull, which activates the karmic motion. And perhaps there is still another man who finds both peace and exhilaration from the contrast of mountains and valleys sweeping down to the distant rumbling ocean. The differences of depth perception, color spectrum, variance of wind and stillness caused by the mountains and valleys. The whole of the spatial occupancy of matter in such conditions allows greater depth in expanding one's senses. A fear of heights might be found in the person whose karmic pace was not expandable into wider dimensions of thought. But the man who's comfortable in an environment of this kind would have the karmic background that allowed for greater mobility of thought, much positive energy, with spurts of negative digression that were not harbored but worked off quickly, no matter what the karmic involvement or misery. A light of great contrast also reveals the depth of great knowledges. A person who likes to imagine such places or go for short trips into its profundity has these knowledges latent. as do we all, some closer to the surface than others. The man who finds a harmony of spirit in land like that, thrives on seeking to release that knowledge. Excuse me. A seeker of wisdom sits quietly by the ocean. He has found the knowledge, and it was incomprehensible to his ear and to his heart. So now he asks that the eternal presence of birth secret, excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't have a chance to turn off the mic. Let me try that again. A seeker of wisdom sits quietly by the ocean. He has found the knowledge, and it was incomprehensible to his ear and to his heart. So now he asks the eternal presence of birth secret questions into the tossing main of ocean and light. The recycling energies brought about in the sea is a means of reclaiming the wisdom of the soul. It cleans one's mind to reveal a closer image of the true soul. The desert is a sterile trance, basking in the sun, wrapping in the heaving arms of sand wide open to the day. It is simple yet extreme. There are men who are well suited to court the desert. I should have said women more often. In those days I said man about everything. Those who have mastered a serene mind, who welcome simplicity, but secretly challenge it to reveal the complications of mankind. Those are the ones who, are attracted to the desert in a very specific way. There are many combinations of these given examples, all aligning their desires to shifting soils of their mother planet. Now, I want to qualify here that, if you happen to like the desert, then you also like the mountains, and then you like the sea, and you have a little of this and that, but you really prefer more than anything else the tropics or this and that. It's the combination of all of these things. This is giving very specific streams, but you can have a combination of all these things. So it might be helpful to sit, after you listen to all of this, to sit down and of course I will provide the text as well if I can pull that up on my computer, and journal a little bit. Go into the feelings of the areas that you like most in the world, what's your very, very favorite, not places like France or whatever. I'm talking about types of nature, mountains or sea or whatever, write that down first and then say, okay, so what is my secondary feel? When I'm feeling a certain way, and sort of find out what way that might be, then I seem to be more attracted to da-da. But when I'm really happy and blah, 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 then I find myself wanting to see more of da-da. And you kind of go through it. Maybe you don't have that much divisions, it may not be that way for you. But if it is, fill it out, like a little tree with branches, and see where it goes. When I daydream, what kind of terrain, what kind of places do I daydream about? And then once you've sort of filled that out, then go into, okay, what places on the earth attract me the most? Stonehenge, the south of France, whatever comes in, take that. Now that places are going to be a little more karmically involved with past lives, but not entirely. You have to see, as it said here, your lifetimes. If you have had a lot of lifetimes in a certain type of locale, that could be, that's involving more the terrain and the kind of energies. So it's all kind of mixed together. So then go to the places that you are your favorite places on the planet, and take that and match it up with the first graph you did about, okay, what kind of places attract me the most, what kind of places attract me when I'm feeling this way, when I'm feeling that way, what kind of places really repel me, and you take that and then join it together with the other work that you've just done about your favorite places, your least favorite places on the planet, like locations. I'm talking about locations. So you take the locations and the type of terrain and geography, and you kind of bring these two together and see what match you can find there. So, and then you'll have the text here so you can see what kind of examples is given here in regard to the types of locations, what it might mean to your karmic flow. Okay, let's continue. Which means I need to turn the page again. Crackle, crackle. Ooh, sorry. So to continue, the time for creating is passed into the twilight. We must now begin the restoration of that which we once created. Now, I don't exactly understand that. We're always creating, so I'm not sure of why that sentence is there. That seems a little, I don't particularly agree with it. Let's put it that way. The time for creating is passed into the twilight. I think what it is saying is that, yes, we are always creating, but in the context of what we're speaking about here, anything we're creating now is a product of recreating and reforming until we get through with this world system one that we're living in, and move on to world system two, which your terminology Thoth gives me for the kind of formations we're dealing with in this life, in this world planetary system. And when we're go into the new earth consciousness, we go into a world system two, and that is manifestation, where you don't have to have entropy and all of that stuff. So I believe that's what this is referring to. It's certainly not clear, and it should have been made clear, but hey, come on, I was 25 or something. I was just beginning with this stuff, so I didn't make it clear there. But but what this is talking about is, okay, you're a created being, but let's look at restoring what you created in the first place and bringing it back into its fullness. If a building displeases us, we tear it down and build a new one. When our bodies become inadequate through the strain imposed upon them because of our disarrayed logic, we create death to relieve us of our predicament. Then we find a new life and memory less painful to endure. But this is the great error of our ways. Restoration is the single key to what God has given us. The original breath of thought, the divine seed, we did not create. We merely mirrored it into our daydreams. We are living in the land of Nod, touching but not being touched, loving, hating, philosophizing, and moralizing. But it falls back upon us. For like in most dreams, the actions within are false. They are accumulations of our fears acted out by remote control, not involving our true nature, but fantasizing through our longing to be real, to be a part of the total reality of God in the universe. Despite all our frightened efforts against it, the soul reveals itself in the nature of this mystical and ruggedly beautiful planet that is so enchanting. Those greater thinking minds of other worlds are awed by this earth's manifestation. We overcome ourselves to express beauty, and this is a great lesson to be learned by all worlds. Because of this, we are very special to those beings of wisdom from many planes of awareness who seek us as a basic step for the soul's continuation. Among the planets aware of us and involved in aiding us, where karma allows, there is a positive action of the soul represented by each planet. Earth is given the title of hope, since such a quality cannot be issued in vain. It will be realized in our tomorrows through our behavior toward our brothers and sisters, and recognized in the beauty of this earth clothed in the garment of humanity's hope. And so that concludes the article that I wrote when I was Linda Christine Hayes, a long, long time ago. So in conclusion, ladies, I would suggest that you get your little notebooks out after you've spent some time with the video and with the written material, and see what you can put together here. You might find a very interesting pattern emerging for you. And I would also, don't just, I might even write this down. I think I'll probably write down on the PDF a little form to follow. I mentioned it here, but I think I'll write it down so you can see how it interacts and how it connects. And it's just a suggested format. I mean, you can take it further, from anything that I might write, or you can put your own little twists and turns into it. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn off something, so we have dinging going on. Anyway, I'm concluded here with the video. So I will be very interested in your feedback on our Facebook group as you follow through with the actual journaling part and see what happens. Okay, that's concluding today. So thank you for listening.